joining us, caring about your world, doing the next right and honorable things. We're going to be joined by Mike Powers in this hour. We're going to be talking about Sandy Hook. As you all know, everybody's been waiting for this, and unfortunately, wouldn't you know, we have communication problems on this day. But we're going to be looking forward to having Mike Powers talk to us about the discrepancies that he sees that are issues in Sandy Hook. Now, we need to take, lightly what's read on the Internet until you check it out and find for yourself if it's true or not. And, of course, what's going to eventually happen is probably an investigator is going to be going to the Sandy Hook area to be doing some interviews. But, of course, right after the event happens, though that's the best time to be getting your evidence, it's a tough time for the families and for the town. I also want to let you know that there is an interview in the email blast on homeopathic therapies for pets. Very interesting one. Dr. Jean Hove did an interview. She is a veterinarian on the use of holistic medicine. The Complete Guide to Holistic Cat Care is what she's written. An illustrated handbook with Celeste Yarnell. She's also written hundreds of articles, lectured in the U.S., and you might be interested in reading the information on homeopathy because they're attempting to try and dissuade people from using homeopathy. And, of course, the American Veterinary Medicine Association is trying to get you to not use raw food, not use anything that seems to work for your animals. And I want to tell you that since I have been using raw chicken meat for my cats, there is no problem at all with the cats catching the birds. In fact, right out front, I have one of those, those like 4x4 or 5x5, it's peanut butter and soot and all kinds of stuff mixed together that you can buy at the store. And it's up, not all that high off the front porch, but the cats do not bother the birds. And I got a lot of them. They do not bother the birds. If you give your cats some raw chicken meat, that's what they're wanting. They're wanting the raw meat. So I buy skinless chicken breast when they're on sale, and that's what I give to the cats once a week, and they will not bother the birds. I mean, it's amazing. So if you want to see your birds live a longer life, please think about doing that. By the way, Harry Reid, who was accused of being involved in a scam thing, remember? Well, it was really more of a, not scam, it was a buyout. He was going to, supposedly his office orchestrated an agreement back in 2010 to get a guy to pay $600,000 to Reid's office or to Reid's pocket. And then that way, the Attorney General of Utah would lay off of him. Well, that's what he was told. Then all of a sudden, he paid $250,000 of the money, and they still came after him. And he said, wait a minute. I paid off Reid, like you said, and you're still coming after me. Well, I guess he didn't pay the full $600,000. Well, now, Senator Reid has now denied the whole thing, even though there's emails to prove it. I think this is so criminal that if they find that Reid was involved in this, he needs to be drawn and quartered and taken out of there. He needs to literally be removed from that position in a most embarrassing, hugely embarrassing fashion. I would love to see that. See, these people, I'm telling you, are lining their pockets. Do you think they go to Washington because they care about the people? There's lots and lots of money. And for the most part, you get some of the most criminal people there taking advantage of the American public in the name of, I'm honorable so-and-so. We'll be back after this 3-minute break. Stay tuned. Mike Powers is coming up. This is Joyce Riley.
Hi, this is Joyce Riley, and most of you already know how Miracle 2 products can be used in the garden to control pests, help your flowers and vegetables absorb nutrients, and promote growth. Most of you already know how it cleans around the house without harsh chemicals or toxins, cutting through grease and leaving your hands soft and healthy. Most of you already know how the moisturizing soap and neutralizer leaves your hair and skin feeling fresh and clean. And for those of you who've never tried Miracle 2, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people agree that Miracle 2 soap is a miracle. Call 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829 and try Miracle 2 products today. The 76 startup package includes all 5 of the Miracle 2 products, an $80 value, only $76, and that includes the shipping. Call 877-817-9829, 877-817-9829, and order your Miracle 2 products today. Then you'll know why so many people say it's not just soap, it's a miracle.
Injuries, slow healing, aches and pains, constipation, weakness, fatigue are all common the older one gets. The progressive deterioration of the body that occurs almost universally the older one gets can partly to significantly be prevented with conscientious attention to nutrition. If the Hanselmen can play rugby in their 90s, then it is possible for everyone in North America to experience a more youthful life as well. One key ingredient to warding off aging and reversing some of it is the type and quality of protein consumed. All protein foods or supplements you currently consume are heat damaged, destroying 50 to 75% of your ability to utilize the bodybuilding amino acids. One World Whey is not heat damaged and allows your body to utilize 100% of the amino acids. This feat no one else has achieved. The results to your health can be amazing. Call 888-988-3325. That's 888-988-3325. Or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworld.com.
It's time for a home security quiz. Answer this. What effective home security device is smaller than a coffee cup, fakes out burglars into thinking someone is home at your house while you're away, plugs into any wall outlet, is recommended by many police departments, and sells for less than $35? Yes, it's Fake TV. This year, about 1 in every 50 U.S. homes will have a break-in, with burglars usually picking the easy target, a dark house that looks like no one is home. Fake TV is a small electronic security device that makes it look like someone is home watching TV by simulating the light from a real TV. It's like a lamp on a timer, but far more convincing. And for only $34.95, Fake TV could be the difference between coming home to a secure house or one that's been ransacked. Go to faketv.com or call 1-877-5-FAKE-TV. That's 877-532-5388. Or go to faketv.com. Fake TV, the burglar deterrent.
Welcome back to the Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. It is 8 minutes after the hour. As you have been promised, we're going to be talking about Sandy Hook today. We're going to be looking at Sandy Hook. Now, I'm going to give my disclaimer, and I'm sure that our guest today, Mike Powers, will want to do the same when I bring him on. But let me just tell you that he is a veteran, U.S. Naval law enforcement, advanced firefighting life support, boarding repulsion, maritime operations, veteran U.S. Army Infantry Reconnaissance, formerly attached to a Tier 3 unit, and we'll ask him about that. Over 15 years experience in civil service, specialized search and rescue, counter-proliferation of Native American artifacts operations with the Bureau of Land Management, 10 years professionally instructing wilderness survival and personal defense theory and personal preparedness, 10 years as a firearms and tactics instructor, having worked with private citizens as well as public service elements, and a consultant in protective security detail. He's been on security teams for several celebrities, foreign dignitaries, and military officials, and I really appreciate him coming aboard today on the Power Hour after investigating Sandy Hook. Thank you so much, Mike, for joining us in the Power Hour today.
Thank you for having me, Joyce. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, I'm going to give my disclaimer first. I'll allow you to give yours, and that is that I don't trust the federal government because they've lied to me too many times. I have no dog in this fight. My concern is that because we have been lied to over, we know, numerous incidents going back to Gulf of Tonkin, death of President Kennedy, even before, we don't trust what the media tells us, so we do our own investigations. I apologize to any parent who may be listening to this program or anyone in the Newtown area that their feelings may be harmed as a result of having to hear this information. But what we're going to be doing here is establishing some facts and some information. So that's my disclaimer that we are doing this because we feel we owe it to the children and to the adults that died at Newtown. Mike, would you like to give a disclaimer before we begin?
I think you pretty much hit the nail right on the head. But I'll add to that by saying that one of the things that myself and my affiliates pride ourselves on is that we don't knee-jerk with conspiracy theory. When we hear these situations, we take all of the details into account. We will go out and perform scientific experiments to conduct full investigations and gather solid evidence to prove that what we're saying is not just speculation, but we can back it up with actual physical evidence.
Excellent. Now, I'd like for you to tell us about your background. I gave the bio information, but what does that mean? What have you done in the past that brings you to the point of being a professional person to do what you're doing today at Sandy Hook?
Well, it's a lifetime commitment to the art. I make my living in the firearms industry. I am affiliating with Tier 1, Tier 2, Tier 3 operators on pretty much a daily basis.
What is Tier 1, 2, and 3?
Tier 1 through Tier 3 are the special operations community of various forms of service in the U.S. Armed Forces. For my own protection and the protection of my clients, people that I associate with, I can't go into an awful lot of detail. Plus, in fact, I signed a legal agreement as to not to disclose an awful lot. But suffice it to say that these are, I get the opportunity to share worlds with some of the hardest hitters that the U.S. Armed Forces has to offer.
All right. So you have a background in arms, you have a background in investigation, in naval law enforcement, and some of the Navy research, or it used to be that it was some of the best that was out there. That is until we had of course, the death of Osama bin Laden, who was buried at sea. But be that as it may, let's start with who, what, where, when, and why. Let's make this simple and let's make this focused on, first of all, who is Adam Lanza? What do we know for sure? Let's talk about what we actually can document and know for sure on the perpetrator, the alleged perpetrator, Adam Lanza.
Well, it's funny that we should phrase it that way, because the simple fact of the matter is that up until this point, there is nothing solid about Adam Lanza. The alleged attacker appeared at the school wearing a mask to conceal his identity. So to this point, what we have is the quote-unquote official story, which unfortunately, and no pun intended, is shot full of holes. There has been no conclusive evidence to prove that Adam Lanza ever existed on multiple different public records and resources sites. We've had no luck whatsoever in locating anything to indicate that he was ever actually a real person. We found tons on his brother Ryan, but nothing on Adam himself. And there is an interesting anomaly that takes place in 2009 where Adam kind of, like, according to the media, drops right off the face of the planet, no longer has an electronic footprint. So many of the other just blatant, dishonest inconsistencies that come up in these things, because as we know, this is the information age. People with access to the internet, people with access to public record search sites that, $24.95 a month, and you can background anybody, anything, anywhere. Adam is an enigma at best. The individual just completely has no indication of ever having been anywhere. And that's kind of what initially drew myself and my colleagues' attention to this situation was, as it immediately began, the first thing that we thought was, oh, my God, not again. Cannot believe this. These just keep happening. And that's what initially spurred the desire to investigate this, because the story started to change so many times, because there were so many inconsistencies, because none of this stuff added up. Especially when they started talking about, I listened to it. I was actually sitting at my computer terminal as the story broke, and I remember hearing it as it came out all day long. They reported certain facts, and then as the story kind of metamorphosized throughout the day, the details changed so significantly that fortunately a couple of my colleagues actually began recording all the news broadcasts. And that's what we do, is we take what's said, what's provided, and then we go back and test it with our own version of litmus, if you will. And at the end of the day, the story just completely stunk, and it still does, which is why we've compiled a list of 30 questions, which now could probably go upwards of 50 over the last couple of days. But the basic 30 are the ones we're asking our elected officials to investigate.
Well, what we know about Adam Lanza is that he was, let's talk about the facts. He was, 21 years old or 22 years old, I believe?
20, as I understood it. Allegedly 20 years of age.
Okay, 20 years of age. He had a brother who lived in New Jersey, and he was using the ID, according to the news story, of his brother, and his brother said he hadn't seen him in 2 years. So obviously he must have missed his driver's license in 2 years, you would think.
You would think that's one of the greatest inconsistencies that popped up in this story is that the official story provided details that Adam had allegedly not had any formal or direct contact with his brother since 2010. And now the other thing is that to date, official resources have not indicated what form of identification it was, whether it was a library card, a driver's license. We've not been able to establish exactly what they said Ryan's ID. So we have to assume, unfortunately, I don't like to do that, but there's no other alternative at this point, is to assume that it's a driver's license. Now, that raised another question in one of my colleagues' opinions who says, well, what's to say that because we can only locate information on one of these people, what's to suggest that they, did they change this kid's name to Ryan late in his life to protect him from his past? Is there, there's all kinds of things that people were popping up with. And unfortunately, we're just not able to locate anything, which is peculiar because most of these guys are pretty good at what they do.
Isn't it interesting, though, that his brother has not made any statements on television that I know of anyway, and come forward to say, look, my brother was a wonderful person. He must have gotten into some hard times, or I don't know what could have happened. I mean, do we even know that the brother exists?
Well, and therein lies the ultimate question. In this entire scenario, the weirdest thing about Sandy Hook versus all of these other scenarios that very conveniently and very extraordinarily well-timed popped up for all of us to witness as this new administration faces its second term is that the details and everything is just so sketchy and so smoky that there's absolutely no clarification to any of it. Where Ryan is concerned, it was extraordinarily peculiar to myself and everyone that I affiliate with that the entire portion of the day, for no less than 6 hours, law enforcement officials, both federal and civilian, who spoke on, quote, conditions of anonymity, all provided statements to members of the media that they had located Ryan's identification, that it was Ryan. His Facebook page. Oh, well, Ryan was commenting on his Facebook page. Okay, so we ran over and checked out his Facebook page, which was set to private, which means that unless you were friends, you're not going to see what he was saying on his Facebook page, which was another one of those kind of oddities that popped up into this kind of thing. And then the clone pages started. We physically watched as 7 different clone pages manifested, people popping up trying to allegedly, or what have you, protect this guy. As the pictures started coming out. And it's just so peculiar. I've got friends that do photo analysis and everything. They've taken the official photos of Adam and have explained to me how Photoshop works in its advanced stages and indicated that they have discovered layers in all of these official photographs. There's a black and white version, there's a color version that's exactly the same picture and just scaled up from one image to the next, which in and of itself is peculiar. So that's initially what drew our suspicion and attention to the situation.
I was talking to Dr. Cass Ingram, who is investigating this also, and he made the statement, or he told me that they had taken the picture of Adam Lanza. There's always some kind of weird photograph that they put out there. This one appears to be like a Sanpeiku skulls picture of Adam Lanza. And he said they had their IT department and go over this, and it has definitely been Photoshopped without a doubt, the picture of Adam Lanza.
Yeah. That which raises suspicions right there. When so many people who are completely unconnected, my group is, we have a very, very specific clientele that we cater to, but my group affiliates with some of the others out there, and when we're all kind of butting heads together on this thing, and we all come to the same conclusions. And, the literal definition of insanity is attempting the same process multiple times and expecting a different result. Well, we're not getting different results. We're getting solid, conclusive evidence, and in the investigative field, that's called incontestable. So then that's kind of where we're going now is we're going to get to the bottom of this one way or the other.
And I feel so good about that, and I appreciate your doing what you're doing and risking and getting outside your job description to do this, because we need people like you. We need more people like you, the more the better, that are out there saying, excuse me, all I want is the facts, and don't lie to me, and willing to go beneath the surface on this. Now, is there anything else we need to look at on Adam Lanza? Because as far as I know, nothing has there's been no evidence to prove that Adam Lanza killed his mother. We don't even know that. We don't even know that he killed his mother. We're being told that, but we don't know that for sure. All right, we've got a 4-minute break. We will be back after this 4-minute break. We've got Mike Powers for 2 hours today, ladies and gentlemen, and we will take your calls later on. But don't call now, because We've got a lot to do at the Power Hour. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 4 minutes.
Hi, I'm Joyce Riley, and many of you know that for years I was a cardiovascular heart transplant nurse. Since that time, I've educated myself on the importance of preventative care. It all begins with providing your heart and vascular system with the building blocks for good health. Strauss Heart Drops is the original formula that was copied by others but never duplicated. Strauss Heart Drops were developed by a master herbalist, Jim Strauss, after he suffered a heart attack in 1979. His doctor said he would only survive if he had heart bypass surgery, and Jim said no. He developed Strauss Heart Drops, the formula that has been copied by others but never been surpassed. Get the original Strauss Heart Drops 4-ounce bottle for only $79.99. Call the Power Hour at 877-817-9829, 877-817-9829. You've probably heard about the other products that have tried to copy the Strauss formula. Well, get the original Strauss Heart Drops by calling 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829. Now you can really do your heart right with Strauss Heart Drops.
On the average, Americans work between 45 to 50 years, hoping to build up enough wealth to retire and live out their golden years. Unfortunately, with taxation, the rising cost of food, energy, housing, and medical, many retirees are forced to live below the poverty line. Is this a flaw free enterprise, or is our monetary unit we call the Federal Reserve Note forcing us into perpetual debt, ensuring inflation and higher taxes? These questions and more can be answered by reading G. Edward Griffin's book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Congressman Ron Paul states it's what every American needs to know about central bank power. A gripping adventure into the secret world of international banking cartel. Hi, this is Ted Anderson. I will give a silver dollar from the early 1900s to anyone who purchases this book. Call 1-800-686-2237 and order a copy today. It's critical that the public be made aware of the system. Call and order your copy today at 1-800-686-2237. That's 1-800-686-2237.
Fight back this cold and flu season with the world's best garlic extract, Ali C. Why Ali C? Because it helps your body fight viruses, bacteria, and fungi. Ali C has been scientifically proven in double-blind studies using low doses to greatly reduce the number, severity, and duration of common colds. Ali C contains 300 milligrams of stabilized allicin, the active ingredient in crushed garlic. Studies show Ali C is effective against MRSA, bacterial, fungal, and viral infections. One tablet of Ali C has the equivalent of 40 cloves of garlic. Ali C supports your body's resistance to all types of conditions and can help lower high blood pressure and high cholesterol. So boost your body's resistance to infection with nature's best garlic extract, Ali C. For more information and to order Ali C, call 877-888-7126 or go to garlichealthproducts.com. That's 1-877-888-7126 or go to garlichealthproducts.com for your Ali C today.
You land in Buenos Aires, then are shuttled to Santa Rosa, where a nicely furnished cabin with all amenities, Wi-Fi, executive food and wine, and laundry service awaits. After a good night's sleep, your adventure begins. You're on a golden stag safari for big game. But it's not Africa, it's Argentina. One-on-one guided hunts for water buffalo, cougar, bighorn rams, wild boar, and the biggest stag deer in South America. All gold medal quality. All the action you can handle. Land Rovers, top rental guns with scopes. All food, beverages, hunting guides, ground transportation included, and more. All more affordable than you can imagine. The adventure of a lifetime starts at GoldenStagSafaris.com. The big game hunting ranch. GoldenStagSafaris.com.
Welcome back to Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. It is 24 minutes after the hour. We're talking about the Sandy Hook tragedy, a tragedy for many, many reasons. We're trying to get to the bottom of what we actually do know. We're talking to Mike Powers today, who has previous law enforcement background, among other things, military background. And we're trying to get to what we do know versus what we have been told. And we have a right to do that because there are those of us who do not trust the criminal element of the U.S. government. And there is a criminal element of the U.S. government. Mike, when we're talking in terms of Adam Lanza, since I have not seen anything about his brother, and what was his brother's name? Peter, is that correct? Or his father? Ryan, I'm sorry, Ryan. Okay. So we have not seen his father either, have we, on television? Peter Lanza.
The statistically and categorically bizarre thing about this entire scenario as it plays out is that by this time, several of the families would have historically appeared on shows like Today, Good Morning America, The View, all the hard leftist outlets that, in my estimation and opinion, force feed the opinion to the American people and then tell them what to think and how to think it because of its presentation. And you've not seen any of that. Peter Lanza's picture of the father has come out. There's been one image that was pulled from, I believe it was LinkedIn or one of those types of business resources. There's a stock image of the gentleman that pops up. There's, of course, the quintessential image of Ryan that they pulled off of his Facebook page. But, the sheer lack of information, when you use resources like Spokio and several of these other simple resources to look it up, you'll see that there's Peter and Nancy Lanza, and then it's Christmas trees down to one son, Ryan, and they say nothing of Adam. And that's the most bizarre part of all of this, is that somewhere, somehow, everybody pops up. It doesn't matter whether you have an electronic footprint or not. If you go to the doctor for the sniffles, if you have a bank account, if you have a cell phone, which obviously they did because officials reported having found multiple cell phones, which I found bizarre, in a household that only has 2 people. The computers that he had the foresight to smash the hard drives up significantly to such that the FBI's forensics guys were unable to pull anything from. Exactly. So again, these are all the things that draw suspicion that no one. It took weeks. I mean, it was just like a couple of 4, 5, 6 days ago that Peter Lanza allegedly claimed Adam's remains after they talked about doing scientific DNA research on Adam's DNA to find out if there's an evil gene and all this other kind of. I mean, this has just gone so grotesquely circus bizarre that it just boggles the mind. There's just no explanation for the way this is being handled.
I think it's a good way to put it, grotesquely circus bizarre. You're absolutely right. So that's all we know about Adam Lanza. But let me ask you even more basic. Do we know that Adam Lanza existed?
No, not to any conclusive nature that myself or any of my colleagues have been able to find. I'm not going to openly say that he did not exist because I honestly don't know. What I can tell you is that through exhaustive researches, that we have not found any conclusive evidence to suggest that he was anything other than a myth at this point.
Okay, what about the mother then? The mother that was allegedly shot 4 times in the head in her home.
That's another bizarrely intriguing point in this, is that all of the reports that were semi-consistent said that Adam had executed her with 4 shots from I believe it was a Marlin 22 long rifle, hunting rifle. And then now, after the story is metamorphosized again, they said that he shot her at point blank range 4 times with the Bushmaster 223, which I'm going to try very hard to avoid the grotesque details, but, people can use their imaginations and come up with a conclusion as to what kind of results that would produce. As far as the mother is concerned, it's been nothing but lie after lie after lie about her. Well, she was a kindergarten teacher here, and everybody knew her and loved her. Well, oops, the players didn't back that play. Well, we don't know who she is, and she never worked here. We have not been able to locate any evidence to suggest that she's ever had a teacher's certificate on file with the state of Connecticut. The school staff themselves have admitted that no one knows who she was, and she didn't do anything there. And then we find conclusive data to prove that Nancy Champion Lanza was indeed, in fact, an employee of Chase Morgan Stanley, and that her husband, Peter, was still is currently the executive director of General Electric's insurance division. Now, one thing that we did locate very, very peculiar about that is that 3 employees from that General Electric insurance division that Peter Lanza is in charge of have been tried, prosecuted, and sentenced for crimes directly tied to the LIBOR scandal. So where there was a lot of internet speculation and a lot of conspiracy theory about whether or not there were any direct connections, there has been solid, reputable evidence to prove, yes, there was at least one direct connection. How those 3 individuals were prosecuted, charged, and convicted, and Peter escaped is, you can come to your own conclusion about that. I'm not going to try to form that opinion, but we did find that very highly suspect.
All right. Got a 3-minute break. We'll be back after this 3-minute break, and we're going to address other issues that Mike Powers, our guest today, has found to be important, and we will continue to follow this. There's no way we're giving up on this story, ladies and gentlemen, just like he says. He will continue. We will also. We'll be back. 3-minute break with the Power Hour. This is Joyce Ryman.
Are you tired of searching for great talk radio?
Something more important.
Search no more. We are the GCN Radio Network.
Healthy soils grow healthy plants. So before you plant your survival garden this year, is your soil healthy? Maximize your crisis garden soil with EM1 from Terraganics. EM1 Organic Soil Conditioner, Fertilizer Amendment, and Compost Accelerant provides healthier gardens and faster, efficient garden composting. EM1 from Terraganics.com quickly improves soil structure by increasing nutrient availability and converting organic matter into soil humus. This improves seed germination and root growth, improves plant quality, size, color, flavor, nutrient value of fruits and vegetables, and improves shelf life. And when rain is not in the forecast, no worries. EM1 improves moisture retention in soils, helping reduce drought stress. Just like you prepare all else, prepare your crisis garden for maximum yields with EM1 from Terraganics.com. Order now at TERAGANIX.com or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Terraganics. Life's getting better.
Are you still a traditional smoker? Now experience a new lifestyle and try vaping with e-cigarettes by LeSig. Imagine no ashes, stains, nasty smell, or coughing and hacking. With LeSig e-cigarettes' revolutionary microelectronic technology, rechargeable battery, and unique replaceable cartridge, you'll get all the benefits and satisfaction of smoking without the hazards. Choose your taste from a wide variety of our new American-made vape-free e-liquids at LeSig.com. And LeSig smokes the competition by serving thousands of worldwide customers with real people customer service, fast, free, same-day shipping, and a 30-day warranty and satisfaction guarantee. So are you ready for a new vaping lifestyle? Then call 870-518-4307. That's 870-518-4307. Or visit LeSig.com, spelled LECIG.com. LeSig e-cigarettes for today's modern smoker.
Radio advertising on GCN, the Genesis Communications Network, is simple, affordable, and reaches millions. How do we do it? Let's break it down. First, the simple part. You tell us about your business. Then our expert radio copywriters write your copy. We hire professional voice talent.
Hello there. I'm a professional announcer.
And then produce your ad with just the right music and feel. Voila! Simple. How affordable? 60-second ads on GCN are the most affordable national radio advertising rates, period. And that brings us to reach. Millions of people listen to GCN radio programs on over 700 AM and FM and XM stations and streaming audio live. That's it. A one-stop shop. Creative radio ads. Very affordable rates. Millions of potential customers and customer service that can't be beat. See our current list of satisfied advertisers at GCNlive.com. Then shoot us an email. advertise@GCNlive.com.
Thank you for joining us. It's 33 minutes after the hour, and please support the Power Mall. We had Sheriff Richard Mack on the show yesterday, and he is doing his best to create Plan B, which is to get to all the sheriffs. And today there were two on CNN who have said, I will not do what the federal government wants me to do. I will do what I need to do as the sheriff in this county. One was in Lynn County, Oregon, and the other one was in Kentucky. And, of course, the discussion was, how do we take care of sheriffs that will not do what the federal government says and breaks the laws? So we need to support Sheriff Richard Mack. Please get, if you would please, the books by Sheriff Richard Mack from My Cold Dead Hands. There's some really excellent, excellent books, ladies and gentlemen, that he's written to help you understand the gun grab issue. Also, we've got Beyond Treason and One Nation Under Siege on special at the Power Hour, along with Are You a Government Guinea Pig and Go for Illness Fact or Fiction. That's 4 DVDs for $45. 4 DVDs for $45. Those are the ones that I did because guess what? They lied, and I want to expose them. So, Beyond Treason, One Nation Under Siege, which, by the way, the price of that is $24.95 on its face. Are You a Government Guinea Pig? That's the one the Department of Defense called me personally on and asked me not to share with anyone. No, Go for Illness Fact or Fiction, I'm sorry, is the one that the DOD called me on. Go for Illness Fact or Fiction. So they're all 4 for $45. Please call 877-817-9829, or go to thepowermall.com. We're talking to Mike Powers today. What an articulate, well-referenced speaker he is. And we're not getting fluff. We're not getting opinions here today. We're getting fact, and that's what I love about this discussion today. We're talking about Adam Lanza. What do we know about him? Not much is the answer. What do we know about his mother? Not much. Can we say at this point, though, Mike Powers, that Nancy Lanza did exist? Do we know that?
That much is relatively certain. There's enough information that's locatable with historical reference to her employment and to her marriage to Peter and everything. Public records have indicated the divorce and such to suggest that, yes, there was. Now, some of the peculiar things that we discovered were the lack of mention of Adam in Nancy's obituary. Given the circumstances, unfortunately, and Nancy's, in her obituary, there was no mention of her son Adam. They mentioned everybody else but Adam. And I kind of went, some people would suggest that, well, that's because he's such a monster and he did such a devilish thing. And we all kind of went, once you're dead, you're square with the house. And, even once it's all said and done, it's in God's hands to make judgment. It's not up to us. And in that particular case, at the very bare minimum, and then the mother's, he was still her son. For better, for worse, he was still her son. And we feel that at bare minimum there should have been at least a mention, Nancy was preceded in death by her son Adam, and there was no mention of this. In fact, the evidence handling protocols and procedures that were used in this situation from beginning to end have drawn questionable opinions from professionals from all over the industries, from law enforcement to the gun industry to anybody out there that just knows what's right in front of them when they see it. And there's a couple of the other points we're going to address when we get to it, that especially about that evidence handling procedure and some of the way the media has portrayed this presents some very dangerous things in our opinions, which is why we're here today.
Oh, definitely note that one. We want to talk about that. All right, let's move to then the motive for Adam Lanza to go to a school and allegedly kill 20 children. What do we know about that?
Simply put, non-existent. There's been rumor, and that's all it is at this point, because no one has produced any kind of conclusive evidence that Adam Lanza, they say in the media that he allegedly attended Sandy Hook for a very short time, obviously in his elementary school years. Well, he's 20 years old now, so it's highly suspect and questionable that, he would harbor some kind of ill feelings from his elementary school days all the way up to his 20th birthday, and then just unilaterally decide to walk in and systematically execute 27 people. And additionally, there was a report that came out that said that Adam had some form of altercation at Sandy Hook Elementary with some of the staff there. And I'm kind of going, number one, why would a 20-year-old kid find himself at the school to begin with? What members of the staff did he have an altercation with? What was the nature of the altercation? And when questioned about it, Connecticut State Police Lieutenant J. Paul Vance indicated that he did not believe that there was any kind of altercation, that none of the staff members that were present that day said that there was anything that happened, plus video records. This Sandy Hook Elementary had just recently graduated a very enhanced security protocol system where all the teachers were taught how to handle these situations. This is what to do. This is how to react. They had all been given sets of keys to lock their classrooms with the exception of Lauren Russo, who was a Canadian national substitute teacher. She was the first classroom that sustained heavy casualties, according to the story, and consequentially it was her vehicle that was out in the parking lot that also sustained massive amounts of gunfire, which indicates to it there was gunfire outside in the parking lot, which drew another one of our questions. Why was there only one call to Sandy Hook Dispatch? Did none of the neighbors hearing massive amounts of gunfire from all these enormous weapons not think to call the police department and say, hey, I'm hearing gunfire over at the school? When you listen to the official police dispatch from RadioReference.com and several of the other public sites like YouTube have got it all on there, you'll hear them indicate, the dispatcher indicates that a staff member at Sandy Hook Elementary believes they're hearing what they believe to be gunfire at this time. Now, fast ballistic reference to the 5.56 millimeter and or 223 cartridge, because they're essentially, with minimal differences, basically the same thing. The typical AR-15 rifle, the sporting carbine these days, has a 16-inch barrel, and in states where not legally prohibited, is equipped with a muzzle brake. Now, anybody that has any education in the firearms industry will tell you that that combination of the 5.56 millimeter round with the muzzle brake, the short barrel like that, produces a much more loud than average hypersonic snap at the muzzle. And when it goes off, they're consistently well known for being louder than even larger weapons, larger calibers. which only redoubles all of our opinions in this matter of how could this individual walk into an enclosed space with an unsuppressed carbine and fire off, according to, again, Connecticut State Police Lieutenant J. Paul Vance, quote, hundreds. He fired hundreds of rounds in the school and was still carrying on his person hundreds more that he had not discharged. And essentially you're talking about a 165 decibel or better percussive impact on the human nervous system inside an enclosed space like that, and that's simply just not possible. The disorienting effects, I actually had 2 telephone interviews with 2 doctors of audiology yesterday, and this is the levels that we take our investigation to. I'm not going to assess it based on my own personal information, my own personal level of training. I'm going to take this to industry professionals who have doctorates in these matters to make sure that my information is correct, and both of those doctors of audiology have indicated that the impact on the cochlear tube of the inner ear would be devastating under those conditions, that the individual would lose balance, he would lose cognitive ability just from the sheer shock of the incident. So it's all of these things. It's not just one isolated thing. It's not just one minor detail. It's the entire pile of all of the details from all the different directions. So, and that's why one of the main reasons we're committed to this, and this is what we've told our elected officials that we've called and said, if this is to be the catalyst that fundamentally changes this nation at its core constitutionally and strips away 250 years of right, privilege, and tradition, that we're not going to go down without a fight.
Wonderful, wonderful. Absolutely, we will not. All right, so we have said that there is no known motive. If you take away the event that was allegedly supposed to have occurred a few days before, which he went and had an altercation with the school, and we don't even know that Adam Lindsay exists or that he graduated from the high school. Has anyone checked the records of the school to see if he was, in fact, a graduate of the school?
He was conveniently homeschooled, according to the official story. So, again, there would be, even then, under what would be classified as accredited homeschooling, Nancy would still have to submit his test scores. And in order to get an accredited graduation certificate, she would have to submit compliance certification to show that he actually took the test. There would be materials provided by the State's Board of Education that would say that, yes, this is in accordance with our current curriculum. And there's been absolutely none of that, absolutely zero.
At this point, we can say there is no documentation that he was given those tests or that he did graduate from the school or anything related to the school. But there's nothing related to the school then on him.
Exactly. Nothing that's been produced or made available to the general public yet.
Okay. Now we go to the issue of how he entered the school and the actual event itself, because he was supposed to be wearing, 4 weapons when he went in there, plus a gazillion bullets with him, ammunition. Right. So what would a guy have looked like? You know weapons, I don't. What would a man have looked like that was allegedly carrying all the things that he was said to have been carrying?
Joyce, the interesting part about that question is that it's so easy to ascertain the accurate answer to it. As you can go on YouTube and you can look up Green Beret, Navy SEAL, Army Delta, any of your, even basic infantry operators these days nowadays typically will carry at minimum 210 rounds on a standard combat load, which is 7 magazines, 1 in the weapon and 6 on their kit, or additional depending upon their mission assignments. But what they alleged him to have had was hundreds of rounds that he fired, hundreds of rounds that he didn't. They indicate that he was wearing a bulletproof vest, that he was wearing some form of tactical vest, which enabled him to carry all of those magazines. Now, the general construction, you can go to many different manufacturers' websites, and to avoid being sued, I'm not going to give their names out, but you can look up tactical gear on the Internet. You can see where a basic tactical vest will have pockets on one side or both for carrying magazines. Now, in order for him to be in full compliance with the story and actually carrying those hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of rounds, what that indicates to me is that he would have to have magazine pouches on both sides of the vest. So this kid is $120, 120 pounds. He's allegedly autistic or has some form of developmental disability that they still haven't gotten completely specific on yet, but they've alluded to Asperger's. They say that he came into the building approximately carrying and wearing his body weight in kit and ammunition and everything else, weapons and whatnot. He had 4 handguns. Well, then he had 2 handguns. Well, then he had a rifle. Well, then he had 2 handguns and a rifle. Then he had 1 pistol and a rifle. They can't make up their mind. Now, I'll point your listeners back to the tragedies of, say, the D.C. sniper. The very moment they took the D.C. sniper into custody, within minutes, the media had pictures of the AR-15 rifle out. The guy's hanging it through his pinky fingers. This was the monster. This was the beast. You've not seen a single picture of any of the weapons, of any of the kit. This is also to tie into Aurora, Colorado, with James Egan Holmes, all of these other most recent incidents, with the exception of Jared Lee Lochner, because they said he only had one weapon, a Glock 9mm pistol, so of course they could take stock images of that. But the most disturbing issues we have right now, and Aurora actually directly ties into this because there's equally as many questions to ask there, both in evidence handling procedures, the official story, how in each one of these scenarios it's played out all the way back through the Sikh temple and all these other mass shooting incidents that eyewitnesses have reported multiple shooters. All of them have reported multiple shooters. They said, well, the kid went down to the front of the theater and opened the door and motioned other people in. I literally did not sleep last night. I was going through and double-checking all of my resources to make sure that I'm correct in my presentation here today. But, where the weapon was concerned, this was one of the other things that drew our attention was, okay, gaining access to the school. I have a picture. I was fortunate enough to locate a picture of the front of the school, which shows all of the glass intact. And when you listen to the dispatcher's initial report to the first responding officers, that they said, they believe the front glass has been busted out. And they don't know why. They didn't say that it had been shot out. They said it had been busted out. And the pictures that I have in my possession now are of a Connecticut State police officer escorting 2 women and 1 child away. And you can clearly look over his shoulder and you see another officer standing there at the entrance with the carbine, and all of the glass is still intact. So as far as access to the building is concerned, I sit back and I think to myself about dynamic entry. You're talking about a 120-pound developmentally disabled kid who's carrying an immense amount of weight and equipment, leaving no real estate. One thing I do want to definitely point out is that if he was wearing a tactical vest and carrying all of these magazines on him, as the sources have reported on conditions of anonymity, there would be no real estate to have carried those pistols. The vest, he's a skinny, lanky kid. This tactical equipment is not made for little, tiny, skinny people. It's made for big, heavy, bulky operators, the muscular guys that have taken the time to become physically fit. So he would have a very difficult time locating equipment that would fit him properly, and even then, it would render the rest of his pockets and belt line, everything else, pretty much compromised. Some people would argue and say he could be wearing thigh rigs. Well, if that was the case, you can bet your bottom dollar that the media would have reported that, because that would have been
he could have been wearing what? I'm sorry?
A thigh rig, which is a holster that drops off. Instead of having your holster at your belt line, a thigh rig drops down to mid-thigh level and straps to your leg. Very widely used in SWAT and special operations communities, and enables the operator to have that weapon on what they call a drop leg platform. Sometimes they'll carry a pistol on one side and extra ammunition on the other, medical kits or a gas mask or something on the other side, but it's typically worn on the legs, which, again, presents the problem of dynamic flow. You're talking about, first, how did he compromise the door? All security doors like that are all hinged on the inside. Even if it was made of glass, it would have to be of sufficient thickness and tempering to sustain weather conditions. It's at an elementary school, so it's safe to assume the kids would slam the door like nobody's business and hang on the door handles and all kinds of stuff. So you're not talking about a single pane of glass here. You're talking about a pretty tough piece of glass. Which brings me to another point. The 5.56mm or 223 cartridge is not very well known for its penetration capabilities. It loses it, and you'll hear our troops complain a lot about it. It's underpowered. It's not making consistent kill shots over in Iraq and Afghanistan and other combat areas. That it's not. They're wanting something stronger. That particular round is also very well documented for its fragmentation. When it strikes its target, because of its velocity, because of the construction of the round, it tends to fragment apart and create a phenomenon called spall, where the bullet will turn and twist, it'll bounce off ribs and go in different directions. It's not the through-and-through penetration that does the primary portion of the damage. It's the temporary wound channel and how it bounces around inside its target, which also leads to yet another problem where terminal end ballistics are concerned when they say that he piled all these kids up into a corner and just started shooting randomly into them. Well, statistically and physically speaking, I'm not convinced that round would have the ability to penetrate through that thick of a wall of meat. I apologize for the grotesque reference, but it's necessary to frame it for people to understand that penetration is everything. For every inch that round penetrates through flesh, it loses energy. It's transmitting its energy. So for it to have enough energy to get all the way to the back of the pile, for lack of a better term, is rather unbelievable in my opinion. But it's just one of those weird things that it's all day long. It's two pistols. You go on YouTube, you go on the internet, keyword search the term Brazil school shooting. If you really want to know what a school shooting looks like, you keyword search that term, and there's a 2 or 3 minute video where you see people doing exactly what you would expect them to do, Joyce, running for their very lives. there was one guy that walked, and we're talking about a school in Brazil, and there were cameras in every corner, and outside there were cameras everywhere. And we're kind of going, why does a prominent, well-to-do neighborhood in Connecticut have an elementary school who had just graduated this new security protocol and not have a single camera? But wait, they did. There was several of the eyewitnesses. One comes to mind is one of the mothers who says, I just don't understand how he got in. This is paraphrasing. It's not an exact quote, but it's pretty close. She said, I just don't understand how he got in. He walked up, generally when you get to the school, you walk up to the door. They look at you through the camera, recognize who you are, and then they have to push a button to let you in. If they don't recognize you, you have to hold up a photo ID. So that indicates to me that is it possible that they could have had an observation-only camera? I suppose so, but it would be rather pointless when the technology is not any more expensive to have it record to a drive. So, again, the lack of video evidence is puzzling.
Okay, we've got so much yet to cover, ladies and gentlemen. And the question of a man coming up with all that armament on him or ammunition on him and then having a mask on, we've got lots to talk about. We'll be back after this 3-minute break. Our guest, Mike Powers, stay tuned. We'll have him through the next hour. Get the CD of this program. It's powerful.
We've all heard about antibiotics, but what about probiotics? Antibiotic means against life. Probiotic means pro-life. Antibiotics kill bacteria that are infectious and harmful to the body. They also kill the good bacteria, though, that are necessary for good health. Probiotics from living streams replaces the healthy balance of friendly bacteria and normalizes the digestive tract. Gastritis, ulcers, diarrheal diseases, just a few of the problems people develop when the intestinal flora is out of balance. Living Stream's probiotics create the healthy balance needed for good digestion, suppresses growth of pathogenic bacteria, and actually increases resistance to infection. Call the Power Hour, 877-817-9829. Order your Living Stream probiotics today. They're available in 2, 4, and 8-ounce bottles, and Living Stream's probiotics comes with a money-back guarantee. Get your body back in balance with Living Stream's probiotics today. 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829. Living Stream's probiotics. Everyone should be pro-life.
Preparedness is simple when you have the right stuff. And with the looming threat of economic collapse and possible service interruption, it's time to get the best-in-class preparedness stuff at DisasterStuff.com. DisasterStuff.com has been serving smart preppers for over 15 years with quality products like Berkey water filters. DisasterStuff.com is the official Berkey in-stock shipping center. And as always, free shipping on all Berkey products. Stock up on water barrels and accessories. Get Country Living or Wonder Mill grain mills, Excalibur food dehydrators, Hatler reusable canning lids, Sun oven solar cookers, EMP bags to protect sensitive electronics, and don't be without your Life Straw personal water filter, all from DisasterStuff.com. Preparedness is simple with the right stuff from DisasterStuff.com. Freedom through self-reliance and personal responsibility.
Don't throw away leftovers. Instead, throw all your leftovers, vegetable peels, eggshells, coffee grounds, pizza crust, and more into the bokashi. If you love to garden and compost but don't like the hassle of turning a compost bin or the smell, then check out the EM Bokashi Food Waste Recycling System from Terraganics. Finally, a way to recycle all your food and plant waste safely and effectively and stop using fertilizers. The EM Bokashi Food Waste Recycling System. Rather than decomposition, the Bokashi system uses fermentation to break down waste, so it takes less time to create nutrient-dense humus for crops or gardens with no turning and no obnoxious odors. To learn more and order your Bokashi online, visit Terraganics.com and click on the orange button. That's Terraganics.com, spelled Terraganix.com, or call 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Recycle all your food wastes in about 6 weeks with the Bokashi Food Waste Recycling System from Terraganics.com. Terraganics. Life's getting better.
Welcome back to Power Hour. It is all about the truth. You know, we've been saying, and I was just saying to Mike, God honors the truth, and He honors those that honor the truth. I just want to add here, it's 54 minutes after the hour. We're wherever you're sitting, that for those people who want to provide evidence, who may know information that is not being disclosed here today or has background information, I'd like for you to send it to the Power Hour, and we will provide it and get it on to Mike Powers. He's not going to give his address out. We're going to give out the Power Hour. Now, I just want to say that when I was on Coast to Coast and I started talking about the sale of biologicals to Iraq, I got all kinds of documents that the government does not like that I have now. They were not classified, but they're in Beyond Treason, in that 3,000 pages of documentation in Beyond Treason. But if you will, please stand, because there are enough people that know now about what happened at Sandy Hook. Send that documentation to the Power Hour at P.O. Box 85, Versailles, Missouri. V as in Victor, ERSAILLES, Missouri, 65084. We'll get it to Mike Powers, because this investigation is not going away, and there's enough people involved in this now. We're going to get an answer. All right, we're talking to Mike Powers today, who has looked at Sandy Hook and has some serious questions about Sandy Hook. Now, the other story of the entrance of going into the school, Mike, was that one report had wire screen reinforced glass, which is what you see most times when you have a place where they don't want you to enter. They don't just have glass. They have a wire screen reinforced glass. Now, if that were true and somebody just tried to knock a hole in this, it might have been a little bit more difficult, and one might have called 911 the minute someone tried to start breaking into the school, correct?
It would be virtually impossible for someone of Adam's, I guess to say admitted physical stature or lack thereof. You're talking about a piece of glass that would weigh in excess of several hundred pounds. And once, even if it did shatter, it would become so unwieldy, sharp edges, busted glass. And that's the thing that you really got to think about this logically, is that you have to assume that because it's the foundation, the front door of an elementary school, that there would be OSHA regulations in place, state safety regulations. I mean, you wouldn't want a glass door that would shatter into a million little tiny glass swords and shred your child under the guise of an accident. You would want there to be some level of protection, which also indicates that it should be laminated glass, which makes the official story that much more difficult. And that's why, you just sit there and then notice the distinct lack of a picture. There's been no pictures whatsoever. My first thought in any of these high-stress situations and any of these mass shooter incidents, I participated in these disaster and emergency services-sponsored mass casualty drills. I participated in several of them. And my first thought when we go in there, being an instructor of personal defensive theory, is very simple. Why did you not push the children out the window? If you heard somebody outside shooting in the hallway in another classroom, why would you huddle up in a corner and start reading these children Christmas stories? Why wouldn't you open the windows and push the kids out the windows and tell them to run to the fire station, which was just up the end of the driveway? These are the things that preoccupy my mind at night and prevent me from being able to sleep, because that would be my first thought for the preservation of the protection of the lives of those children. You would do anything to get them out of the harm's path. And I question any professional instructor that would teach teachers to have children sit down Indian style in a nice little target-shaped circle and wait for a madman. Oh, we'll just lock the door. Well, if he had all the firepower that they allege he had, he could simply shoot the lock out of the door, kick it in with his super huge Rambo legs, and then he's off on his killing spree again. I also find it highly suspect that substitute teacher Lauren Russo was one of the only staff members present that did not get issued a set of keys to lock her door.
Interesting. All right, we got lots of things to discuss, ladies and gentlemen. It only gets more and more in-depth as far as the questions go. We'll be right back. 1 minute, 10 seconds. Welcome back to Power Hour, straight at the top of the hour, wherever you are sitting today. Remember, 11:45 Eastern Time, the alleged president is going to give the list of executive orders that we will supposedly have to bow down to, and a lot of discussion could be had on that, but it sort of all emanates from post-Newtown, in which everyone references the fact that because of Newtown, we must do this. So it worked out perfectly in the timing. We're talking with Mike Powers today, who has investigated this, and I think by now you're convinced that he knows what he's talking about here. And the questions we have here are questions that, guess what? Last night on CNN, they brought up the issue of all of these quote-unquote conspiracy theorists that are asking questions about Sandy Hook. It certainly got legs last night, and it was not in a positive fashion, as you can imagine, but it let everybody know that lots of people are questioning this, and I'm so glad that we have Mike Powers questioning it on the Power Hour today. All right, we were talking about the entrance into the facility, the school. Allegedly, we are told that he broke the glass and went in. Now, from the time that he broke the glass, you would think that one person would have called 911. What do we know about the notification to police that there was an event of some kind taking place?
Very, very, very peculiar details here. At this point in time, what I can absolutely tell you is that we have not located anything other than the initial single call to Sandy Hook Dispatch. There has been no evidence. RadioReference.com, one of the most reliable sites there is out there as far as the recordings of these things. There's not been any subsequent calls in. And that's some of the stuff that really kind of takes us by shock and surprise here is exactly how this was handled. And this is some of the things that in the coming weeks, depending upon what happens in this nation, we're going to be conducting some of these scientific experiments. We're going to be attempting to obtain a door of similar size and mass. We will be shooting a .223 caliber round at it several times at different locations to see what results it would produce, and we'll find out exactly how much the door would weigh and whether it's believable that a 120-pound computer weakling kid who's not an athlete and not in exceptionally good physical condition could have managed such a feat. There's SWAT operators, there's military operators, there's guys that train their entire lives, that spend hours a day in the gym working out and getting to the best physical fitness that they can possibly be in, and carrying all this equipment and everything, and they train their entire lives to do it. And you don't just walk on to one of these teams. You have to prove yourself before you get to that level, before you're brought into that community. So again, I'm going to keep stressing this because it's critically important, for a 120-pound developmentally disabled kid to suddenly reach the exact same peak of operational performance and pull off a stunt, but, within the first 3 minutes, he's discharged hundreds of rounds, which, again, as we indicated earlier, would have beat him senseless physically. It's just more and more and more of those things that continue to stack on that don't make any sense, and where this whole thing was concerned. You have one call, you have a massive, massive level of response, which is one of the reasons that there are people out there suggesting that this was actually part of the mass casualty drill that was taking place 35 minutes away from Sandy Hook on exactly the same time. And I think
we need to add, there was, and that has been documented, a drill taking place 25 minutes away from Sandy Hook School at another school.
Which was absolutely confirmed. And see, that begs the question, when all of these surrounding assets are already tied up, well, they just conveniently already happen to be in KID. And all their stuff's ready to go, and they're already prepped and everything. And, one of the most disturbing details that initially came out was that they said that within the first 60 minutes, at 9:37 a.m., they said the first call came in. At 9:41 was the initial dispatch that they gave to the first officer that said that, they believe what here to be gunfire from outside the school. Okay, that was a huge red flag. If they're hearing gunfire outside the school, why didn't any of the neighbors hear it, and why didn't they call? Secondly, you're going to tell me that you guys standing right outside your window. I mean, you can look at the Google Earth. You can go to Newton, Connecticut. You can find the school. It's not hard to do, guys. There's the helicopter footage. You use your mind's eye. You can look right there. Offices are always at the front of the school. You're going to tell me you didn't hear a guy busting off hundreds of shots with a rifle and couldn't tell that it was gunfire?
Okay, we're going to be back after this 3-minute break. We're going to talk about the fog of war, the response of law enforcement, the weapons that were utilized, and the gun range issue. We'll be back after this 3-minute break.
Hi, this is Joyce Riley, and most of you already know how Miracle 2 products can be used in the garden to control pests, help your flowers and vegetables absorb nutrients, and promote growth. Most of you already know how it cleans around the house without harsh chemicals or toxins, cutting through grease and leaving your hands soft and healthy. Most of you already know how the moisturizing soap and neutralizer leaves your hair and skin feeling fresh and clean. And for those of you who've never tried Miracle 2, you owe it to yourself to find out why so many people agree that Miracle 2 soap is a miracle. Call 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829 and try Miracle 2 products today. The 76 startup package includes all 5 of the Miracle 2 products, an $80 value, only $76, and that includes the shipping. Call 877-817-9829, 877-817-9829, and order your Miracle 2 products today. Then you'll know why so many people say it's not just soap, it's a miracle.
Never before has there been a nail hardener that requires no drying time. The all-natural herbal blends of Nails of Steel can help eliminate cracking, splitting, hangnails, and other nail problems with virtually no drying time. Nails of Steel is hypoallergenic and biodegradable, and is so easy to use you can keep it at the home or at the office. Just massage this rich, creamy herbal lotion over your natural or polished nails, and within the first week you will begin to notice your nails looking healthier and strengthening.
My fingernails were always chipped, and then I started using Nails of Steel. Today my nails are healthy and strong, and they look like I just walked out of the salon.
Nails of Steel is also used by men. Men work hard, and their hands can show it.
I used to have split, broken nails. With Nails of Steel, I can work hard, be rough, and still have strong nails, and keep my hands looking groomed.
You don't have to be a female to want Nails of Steel. Everyone wants a good-looking pair of hands. And broken, chipped, and damaged nails can be painful. Go to nailsofsteel.com for healthy, manicured-looking nails. Nailsofsteel.com for the salon in a bottle. That's nailsofsteel.com.
Utopia Silver understands that mainstream medicine and the rising costs of healthcare can financially destroy any family. We simply cannot afford to get sick. The only option is to stay healthy. Americans are learning that ill health is not caused by a deficiency of drugs. It's usually the result of a deficiency of minerals, vitamins, proper nutrition, and exercise. UtopiaSilver.com offers colloidal silver and healing protocols for vaccine and radiation poisoning, arthritis, insomnia, and more. If you're sick of unconstitutional government mandates, then stand up now and say no. The time is growing short to put this evil genie back in its bottle. Join Utopia Silver in promoting good health and fighting for our God-given health care rights. Visit utopiasilver.com, UTOPIA silver.com, or call 888-213-4338. That's 888-213-4338.
Welcome back to Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. It is 8 minutes after the hour. You're in the third hour of the Power Hour today. So I want to give my disclaimer again that because we know there is a criminal element in the U.S. government, we are now asking questions about Sandy Hook. We're asking questions about Waco. We're still asking questions about Oklahoma City bombing, about Gulf War illness, depleted uranium, you name it. We are tired of being lied to, and that's why we are being forced to investigate a situation in which we were given numerous news reports of how the event happened. And joining us today is Mike Powers, who is an investigator. He is an expert in marksmanship and in weapons, and we're just so pleased that there are people like Mike that are doing investigations out there. He is not alone. Let me tell you, he is not alone. Mike, welcome back, and thank you so much. In the third hour, by the way, of the Power Hour, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to order the CDs from this program, you can do it. They're like $5 to order 1 hour from the Power Hour, and it goes up from there if you order 2 and 3 hours. But the reason I want you to get these CDs is pass it out to the people who may not be on the computer. Pass it out to all people. We want as many people to hear this story as possible. And then, if you are one of those people that has documentation and information that you don't want to publicly share, send it to P.O. Box 85, Versailles, Missouri, 65084. We will pass it on to Mike Powers. That is P.O. Box 85, Versailles, Missouri, 65084. Now, all the things that we're talking about here, and of course the law enforcement response to the scene or to the event as it was occurring, there was an exercise taking place 25 miles from there, so conveniently everybody had their military weapons and their equipment ready to go at that time. But we still get all kinds of mixed messages about what happened, and now it's being called, well, fog of war. It's because when you're doing all these things at once, hey, who knows what's happening? Your response on fog of war, since you've been an investigator, military investigator.
You know, if I can, I'm just going to make it real easy. There is a hell of a difference between the fog of war and a localized incident at an elementary school. Warfare, there is an immeasurably immense level of tension and stress when your opponents are firing off IEDs, firing rockets. There's sniper fire coming at you from every direction. You're actively engaged with multiple opponents from every different angle whose sole occupation is to kill you and your teammates every minute of every day, versus responding to a single shooter incident. Which again was puzzling, is the level of response that once the first responders initially got on scene, they said that within the first half hour of this whole thing, it's not exactly clear when, but they said that when emergency first responders first made entry to the building, the first team that went in, Lanza allegedly heard them coming or noticed them coming or what have you and offed himself. And that was allegedly the end of the gunfire, which we also found to be a blatant lie. There was, you can go through and listen to the dispatch audio. You can hear the police officers winded. You can hear them. They're coming up the left side, coming up the driveway. There's two of them coming right at me. The dispatcher says, teachers have reported they saw two shadows coming up the left side of the auditorium. There's raw footage of helicopters chasing guys out into the woods. One of the things we mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast, Joyce, is critical, and I want to bring this to your listeners' attention, is the perception. It's a perception of how this event is transpiring. One of the most critical things I would draw their attention to, if they're not entirely sure that they're being lied to, was the raw helicopter footage of the investigator removing the weapon from the back of what amounted to Christopher Rodia's car. They ran the plate, and now they're trying to say, it was radio crosstalk. The radio crosstalk. It wasn't actually Rodia's car. Absolutely it was. I don't know of a single jurisdiction that does not have an emergency tactical frequency that they switch to. See, basically what happens is on a day-to-day basis, your traffic officers who are out there on patrol will have a primary operating frequency with city-county dispatch. If something goes down, they will either be directed by dispatch authorities to switch to this secondary frequency so that they don't clog up the primary net, because all the traffic officers who are out there still doing their job and providing service to the community still have to have a network to communicate with. So that's specifically why they introduce things like mutual aid, so that other agencies responding from other jurisdictions can come in on a mutual frequency so everybody can talk back and forth. So and in that particular situation, going back to that video reference real fast, you saw the guy pulling what amounted to a Saiga 12-gauge shotgun and an ATI fiber force stock out of the back of this vehicle. He reaches up far on the frame, pulls the charging handle, and you see a shotgun shell fall out of it. A couple days later, the raw helicopter footage came out. And what the media had done was they panned in very, very tightly on that one individual that was pulling the rifle out of the trunk. When you see the raw image, there are four other unidentified, whatever agency they were with at this point, unidentified people standing right next to him that were wearing full chemical gear. The whole monkey suits, rubber boots, masks, the whole 9 yards.
Chemical gear?
Yes, ma'am. And that's chemical protective equipment or radiological protective equipment, depending on whether it's not close enough or clear enough to be able to ascertain. But what you can tell is that these four individuals are in what they call full MOPP, MOPP, from head to toe. And it's just one of those bizarre things that why would they conceal that from the general public in the initial reporting when they showed you the guy pulling the rifle out of that trunk? And then all of a sudden we find the raw helicopter footage comes out and there's four guys in chem gear. What did they think they were going to find in the back of that car?
No kidding. I did not know that. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So just so we're clear on the weapon, what is the alleged Adam Lanza to have allegedly carried in the school?
Okay, what they're purporting at this time was that it was allegedly a Bushmaster caliber 5.56/223, because essentially with only some minor cosmetic differences, there's not a lot of difference between those two rounds. 223 caliber semi-automatic sport carbine with at minimum no less than 10 to 12 magazines. That's what they're saying he used. The initial story said it was two handguns, that it was a Glock 9mm and a it was a 6-hour 9mm and a Glock 10mm. And then they said that they had found the AR-15 in the back of the car out in front of the school, but that it had not been brought into the school and was not used. Now, they reported that all day long until, in true Rahm Emanuel fashion, they realized never missed the opportunity to take full advantage of a tragedy. and that's when they allegedly introduced that the AR had indeed been brought into the school. And that's kind of another thing when, federal and civilian law enforcement officials reported all day long that it was 2 handguns. Now, the funny thing that I want to bring to your listeners' attention about all this is that these are all classic military and law enforcement type weapons. The 6-hour 9mm, the Glock 10mm is one, pretty rare. 2 was very, very commonly carried by law enforcement officers for a number of years because of its ballistic knockdown power. The reason they transitioned away from those is because it was expensive and it was oversized, and female officers had a difficult time negotiating the size of the weapon. So when they switched into a smaller round, the 40 Smith & Wesson came in a smaller frame. It was half the price. A lot of those officers had the opportunity to have departmental buyouts, which means they could purchase their weapon. So there was a flood of those 10mm guns. And that's when you start seeing all of these little things. It's not the one great big thing. It's all of the little stuff.
Right. Let me ask you this. With respect to the weapon that allegedly did the damage, that some children were shot 11 times, between 4 and 11 times. Which weapon is allegedly supposed to have been used to do that damage?
According to the medical examiner, Dr. Wayne Carver, which, just in my own opinion, if we can get to the bottom of this thing, I thought that was grotesque. It's just bizarre that this Wayne Carver, and I'd like to talk to him about him for just a moment if I could later. He says that according to his initial estimates, it was the long gun. And when we started hearing that and thinking 11 shots and this again is where you've got to start thinking in sheer physical dimensions. You're talking about little tiny kids. They would be blown to pieces. At 11 shots, there wouldn't be a whole lot left. Not at that range. That's
okay, when you say long gun, which one are you referring to?
The AR-15, the alleged AR-15.
Okay. All right, then let me ask you this question, which is, as I've been wanting to ask someone that knew about weapons, and that is, with an AR-15, and you have a young man who allegedly was going with his mom to go to areas to fire off the weapons at gun ranges, and yet when the Wall Street Journal reporter went to all the gun ranges around that area, no one had ever seen her or him at a gun range shooting weapons. So no one can even verify that they had been to gun range doing the shooting. So we don't even know that she owned those weapons. However, if I were a 20-year-old kid who didn't do much shooting, didn't know much about an AR-15, or me with an AR-15, if somebody handed me an AR-15, could I reasonably pull off 11 shots per child or 4 to 11 shots per child and know how to use an AR-15?
I'm going to say absolutely not, and I'll give you a list of several reasons why. Number one, and first and foremost, the physiological trauma on the human nervous system of discharging that number of rounds. You have to think about the weight of the weapon. You're between 6 and 10 pounds, depending upon how it's accessorized and the size of the magazine, that kind of thing. So you're also talking about a little lanky kid. One of the exercises we have in our competitive community is called a gun up, where you shift the weapon from the low ready to the high. You're talking about weightlifting the entire time. And hundreds of times, according to what is supposed to be a reputable source, that is the Connecticut State Police lieutenant. He allegedly did this hundreds of times. So that's my first reason to say no. Secondly, there's psychological conditions that come into play. And this is, I've actually spoken to a few psychiatric professionals about it, and they said that, when it comes down to shooting of adults, yeah, it's not unbelievable, but there's a psychological block that comes into play when children are involved, even for the most psychotic of individuals. Could he have done it? I just honestly do not believe so. The sheer force of the issue, the timing that's involved. Now, according to official sources, Mr. Lanza allegedly changed magazines no less than 8 to 10 times.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, let's pick that up when we come back from the break. He changed magazines from 8 to 10 times. We'll talk about how much time it would take to do that. And does an AR-15 jam? Are there problems that can occur? We'll be back after this 4-minute break. Mike Powers is our guest. Don't miss it.
Hi, I'm I'm Joyce Riley, and many of you know that for years I was a cardiovascular heart transplant nurse. Since that time, I've educated myself on the importance of preventative care. It all begins with providing your heart and vascular system with the building blocks for good health. Strauss Heart Drops is the original formula that was copied by others but never duplicated. Strauss Heart Drops were developed by a master herbalist, Jim Strauss, after he suffered a heart attack in 1979. His doctor said he would only survive if he had heart bypass surgery, and Jim said no. He developed Strauss Heart Drops, the formula that has been copied by others but never been surpassed. Get the original Strauss Heart Drops 4-ounce bottle for only $79.99. Call the Power Hour at 877-817-9829, 877-817-9829. You've probably heard about the other products that have tried to copy the Strauss formula. Well, get the original Strauss Heart Drops by calling 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829. Now you can really do your heart right with Strauss Heart Drops.
Jim Newcomer from Midas Resources, January 15th, 2013. Gold opened this morning at $1682.70. A 1-ounce gold coin can be purchased for $1724.51, $862.26 for a half ounce, or $431.13 for a quarter ounce. That's $1724.51, $862.26, and $431.13.
Hi, this is Ted Anderson. Have you ever wondered why banks, stockbrokers, investment advisors won't talk about gold IRAs? Wait a sec. Gold and silver is going up while Congress is trying to settle on the next debt increase. And there's no end to this madness. That old 401k and IRA can be converted into physical gold without tax consequences. I explained this in my book, 10 Reasons to Buy Gold. Don't let time slip away. Call for your free copy today, 800-686-2237. Get away from that Washington spin and get honest answers about gold. 800-686-2237. The book is free, 800-686-2237.
Balance, harmony, mental alertness, physical well-being. If once you possess these qualities, but stress now weighs you down, you can get your mental edge back in a holistic approach with Nootropic Mind Power from MindRegard.com. Not a drug. Nootropic Mind Power is a lasting, proven natural supplement with 12 powerful ingredients in nutraceutical compounds and are non-GMO. Plus, it's gluten-free, wheat-free, and formulated by Americans for Americans by an NSF-certified laboratory. Nootropic Mind Power is available at MindRegard.com, spelled MindRegard.com, and comes with a 100% money-back guarantee. Free your mind with Nootropic Mind Power Cognitive Supplement from MindRegard.com. MindRegard. Clearly see tomorrow and yesterday today.
I have been asked to announce that federal judge Walter J. Skinner has confirmed that most gasoline vehicles will get 22% more miles per gallon with a low-cost automotive accessory called Platinum 22, which meets or exceeds its own fuel-saving claims. To learn if Platinum 22 will give you 22% more miles per gallon, you should call 1-800-LESS-GAS or 1-800-537-7427.
Are your Federal Reserve notes looking for a safe haven? Mine found it in precious metals. Not paper promises, but actual gold in my possession. It is liquid, it is private, it owes no one, it cannot go bankrupt, and it maintains its purchasing power. Find your answer at Midas Resources. That's 1-800-686-2237. The answer is at 1-800-686-2237.
Welcome back to Power Hour, 24 minutes after the hour. You will be able to hear this interview in its entirety, of course, in the email blast that comes out at 5 p.m. today. If you haven't signed up for the email blast, get it. Send it to as many people as you know. Only by putting the documentation and evidence together will we come to the conclusions of what happened. And I don't know what happened, neither does our guest, but he is very cautious about going with the prevailing political story, of course. We're talking with Mike Powers today, and the subject is, of course, Sandy Hook, the investigation of Sandy Hook, a real investigation of Sandy Hook. Now, when we went to the break, we were talking about the weapons that were utilized or taken in. Now, if I were carrying in and I'm a healthy-sized woman here, but if I were carrying in a Bushmaster 5.56, a .223 cal sport carbine, a Glock 10 millimeter, and a Sig Sauer with all the assorted ammunition to go with it, would that not be a little cumbersome and maybe be seen by the people that were on the other side of that glass?
That was initially exactly the first question that we asked was, how is it that a person wearing all this scary stuff and a mask and rifles and pistols and, a dozen magazines and God only knows what else he had on him that he didn't get an opportunity to use, how is it possible for this to have happened without at least somebody? I mean, how many people are on average in a school office at any given time? Ladies sitting at the desk.
Or on the school ground. On the school grounds that were coming to school or late for school or whatever. There should have been somebody seen this scary guy coming in.
Well, the whole front of the glass, or the front entryway of the school, was made of huge panes of glass. And even the law enforcement guys admitted upon their arrival that the glass was intact and that they, in fact, shot their way in, busted the glass to gain access. And then that tells you right there, if he had compromised the front door to the school, why wouldn't the responding officers just walk in? And why is it that the people that are inside those rooms where these big, huge panes of glass are, people, you see this guy in this imposing stance. Not one of the teachers managed to pick up a cell phone. Even in 9/11, you had the dramatic call of "Let's roll." The guy got on his phone and called his wife, "Honey, the plane's been hijacked and we're going to die.
Allegedly.
Let's roll."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, exactly. In all of these other scenarios, there were people calling from, the sea. Every one of these things, somebody, not a single extra call. There's so many variables that came into play in this that it just made no sense whatsoever. Well, the school psychologist and the principal went out to bravely encounter this madman shooter who's coming through the door. You know what? I'm just going to call one massive, immeasurable, stinking, steaming pile of bull manure on that one. You are not, I don't care who you are, you are not going to walk up to somebody dripping in guns and masks and scary. You're not going to walk up to somebody after he's already busted off all these. You should stop what you're doing right now, young man. Give me a break. You're going to run like hell.
All right, let me go back to the AR-15 because now, along with the other weapons, he also had an AR-15. So this guy was pretty much loaded down. Now, you say an AR-15, 6 to 10 pounds. And then with the assorted ammunition being 8 to 10 times, he changed the magazine. Now, how many shots are in each magazine?
Well, the standard, I refuse to use the term high-capacity magazine because that's a politically generated term to make it scary. The standard capacity magazine, in accordance with what's called the STANAG, or Standardization Agreement, is capable of accepting 30 rounds. Most professionals will only load them to 28 to prevent an anomaly called a failure to seat. Now, of course, Mr. Lanza is going to pack them to 38 because he's just amazing like that. Please note my sarcasm. And this is where it became very, very, very curious. So they're saying that, according to official sources, once again speaking on conditions of anonymity, that Mr. Lanza allegedly changed magazines somewhere between 5 and 10 times because they walked in, there's magazines lying everywhere all over the ground, and they said, well, it's because he's such a violent video gamer, and they know that you should never go from one room to another without topping off so that you don't run the risk of running out of bullets. He only went to 2 rooms. So even from an experienced gamer standpoint, because I've asked some of them, they're like, why would you do it so many times inside the same room? It's just pointless and stupid. And so even the guys that they accused of having something to do with this didn't. It makes no sense. Let me ask you about the changing of the magazine for the AR-15. Sure.
Now, supposedly, he got there, we don't know really what time, but the phone call was made. How long? I mean, if you were just to put yourself through the experience of holding on to an AR-15, shooting all those people 4 to 10 times, and then changing a magazine 5 to 10 times, does that take very much time? Is it difficult to do that? Do they jam? Is there anything we should know about that?
Absolutely. As an experienced shooter, I'm going to tell you that I've changed magazines in my head, and I want to preface this by saying that I have the privilege of owning extremely high quality, extremely reliable firearms, and even I make mistakes from time to time indexing a magazine, so it's extraordinary.
And when we come back, we're going to talk about someone who had the experience of an alleged Adam Lanza who no one ever saw at a shooting range. What would it be like to use that weapon? We'll be back after this 3-minute break with Mike Powers. Stay tuned. This is Joyce Riley.
The GCN Radio Network, providing the world with hard-hitting talk radio. GCN. Great talk radio starts here.
Healthy soils grow healthy plants. So before you plant your survival garden this year, is your soil healthy? Maximize your crisis garden soil with EM1 from TerraGanix. EM1 Organic Soil Conditioner, Fertilizer Amendment, and Compost Accelerant provides healthier gardens and faster, efficient garden composting. EM1 from TerraGanix.com quickly improves soil structure by increasing nutrient availability and converting organic matter into soil humus. This improves seed germination and root growth, improves plant quality, size, color, flavor, nutrient value of fruits and vegetables, and improves shelf life. And when rain is not in the forecast, no worries. EM1 improves moisture retention in soils, helping reduce drought stress. Just like you prepare all else, prepare your crisis garden for maximum yields with EM1 from TerraGanix.com. Order now at TerraGanix.com or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. TerraGanix. Life's getting better.
Radio advertising on GCN, the Genesis Communications Network, is simple, affordable, and reaches millions. How do we do it? Let's break it down. First, the simple part. You tell us about your business. Then our expert radio copywriters write your copy. We hire professional voice talent.
Hello there. I'm a professional announcer.
And then produce your ad with just the right music and feel. Voila! Simple. How affordable? 60-second ads on GCN are the most affordable national radio advertising rates, period. And that brings us to reach. Millions of people listen to GCN radio programs on over 700 AM and FM and XM stations and streaming audio live. That's it. A one-stop shop. Creative radio ads. Very affordable rates. Millions of potential customers and customer service that can't be beat. See our current list of satisfied advertisers at GCNlive.com. Then shoot us an email. advertise@GCNlive.com.
Are you still a traditional smoker? Now experience a new lifestyle and try vaping with e-cigarettes by LeSig. Imagine no ashes, stains, nasty smell, or coughing and hacking. With LeSig e-cigarettes' revolutionary microelectronic technology, rechargeable battery, and unique replaceable cartridge, you'll get all the benefits and satisfaction of smoking without the hazards. Choose your taste from a wide variety of our new American-made vape-free and e-liquids at LeSig.com. And LeSig smokes the competition by serving thousands of worldwide customers with real people customer service, fast, free, same-day shipping, and a 30-day warranty and satisfaction guarantee. So are you ready for a new vaping lifestyle? Then call 870-518-4307. That's 870-518-4307. Or visit LeSig.com, spelled LECIG.com. LeSig e-cigarettes for today's modern smoker.
Welcome back to Power Hour. Thank you for joining us. It is 33 minutes after the hour. Remember, at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time, the president will be the king, the imperialistic king, will announce his edict for the people. Just thought I'd let you know that. Also, I want to encourage you to get the 4 DVD set that we have at the Power Mall: Beyond Treason, One Nation Under Siege, Are You a Government Guinea Pig, and Gulf War Illness Factor Fiction. Now, Gulf War Illness Factor Fiction is the one that the DOD called me on. As you recall, Navy Captain Chalker Brown called me from the Pentagon to tell me not to allow that video out. And I told him that until he could show me where there was something erroneous or inaccurate, I would continue to do it, and I have. So Gulf War Illness Factor Fiction is the one that they're not happy with. Then Beyond Treason has about 3,000 pages of documents on a CD-ROM to support the experimentation on our military, from Gulf War illness to atomic veterans, Agent Orange, Project Whitecoat, depleted uranium, chemical exposures, biological experiments, experimental vaccines. That's where they got me. They gave me an experimental vaccine and then lied about it. Investigational drugs, mind control projects, the Regal Report, Senate Report. All those items, the missing Gulf Link files, are also in there, by the way, that have been taken down from the Internet, and those are amazing, the Gulf Link files. So call the Power Hour and get those 4 DVDs in a 4-DVD set at 877-817-9829, 877-817-9829, and don't forget to ask for the CD of this program. so you can have Mike Powers to re-listen to over and over again or send out to someone else, because there's lots of information here. Also, I'm not going to take phone calls today. We don't have time. There's too much to get to, unless you're an insider. Unless you're an insider that has information that is critical to the investigation of the subject, then you may call in at 855-995-6923, 855-995-6923. But don't call me and tell me that you saw something on the Internet you want to share with us. That's not what I'm interested in today. I want facts. I want documentation. I want inside testimony if you have that. 855-995-6923. That if you have documents that can support anything that we've discussed here, please send them to the Power Hour, P.O. Box 85, Versailles, Missouri, 65084. P.O. Box 85, Versailles, Missouri, 65084, and we will get it to Mike Powers. Mike, I just want to say before we go on that for those joining us, we're talking about questions, disinformation, whatever you want to call it, on Sandy Hook. You put yourself in a very difficult position by doing this. I hope you understand, and I'm sure you do, the danger you've placed yourself in by revealing this information.
Well, the funny thing about that is I've discovered throughout my life, one of the best places you can possibly be is right out in the open. If something were to happen to me, there's enough people in the community that I belong to that would take it personally, and then it would be just too blatantly obvious because of the facets and the details of my life, the people that I'm affiliated with, friends and professional colleagues that I have. It would be extraordinarily unwise for anyone to attempt anything sinister. And that's why, and the other side of that is as a spiritual man, I believe in the protection of my holy Lord and God Almighty and His Son, Jesus Christ. So if that's how they want to roll, then okay, take on the universal creator if that's what they want.
That's right. And he said, I will keep you free of the terror in the night, and I claim that. When I went on the air and exposed all this information in Houston and called George Bush, his office, to have their office listening, I ended it by saying, after I gave all the information that nobody knew at that time, I said, do not think that silencing any of us will silence our story. It will only make us stronger. All right, let me get back and again, further commend you and salute you for what you're doing. But let's get back to the issue of the AR-15. If somebody hands me an AR-15, am I going to be able to just start shooting with this and start killing people?
Well, it's funny that you should bring that up. Now, they talk about how all these weapons were legally registered to Nancy Lanza. I had actually called in to speak to a couple of people that had spread that, and I said, you guys have, in Connecticut, you guys have an assault weapons ban in place. So how do you legally register an illegal weapon? If the state has an assault weapons ban in place and these weapons were legally owned by Nancy Lanza, how was she able to do that?
Good point.
Okay. Got a couple more of those. One thing I really desperately want to address just really quick is this issue of the individual Gene Rosen, who took in 6 kids, reported to have been a former psychologist. I really want to address him really fast because he showed up on MSN News last night whining and crying about how truthers are calling him. One point that he made in one of his multiple please pardon the expression, attention-whoring interviews with the media that he ran to every camera that would talk to him. He said that, I heard the staccato fire. I heard the bump, 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 the sustained. My question to him was this. There's 2 questions I'd like to pose to him. Number one, if Mr. Lanza was inside the school, it's reasonably feasible to suggest that the noise of the discharge of the weapon would be suppressed at least sufficient enough to keep Mr. Rosen from hearing it if he was all the way up the street at his residence nearly 0.8 of a mile away. My second question to him would be, sir, if you heard staccato gunfire coming from an elementary school, why the hell did you not pick up your phone and call? Never once has he indicated in any of his multiple interviews that he actually called Sandy Hook Elementary or Sandy Hook's dispatch to report the crime. These folks, it's the little details. It's the little details that matter. Let's go back to that AR-15 for a minute. This is my opinion there. I'm going to suggest to you that this was a stock, run-of-the-mill, no-frills, average AR right off the shelf. Professionals in my industry can accessorize, upgrade, and otherwise tune these rifles to become extremely reliable. The AR-15, just like any other mechanical device, is very highly prone to mechanical failures, otherwise known as stoppages. Ammunition issues come into play, mechanical issues come into play, people not having the proper lubrication on the weapon, and they're either over-lubricated, under-lubricated, don't bother to clean it after a good solid range day. Otherwise, so that's one of the things you have to think about there. Secondarily, they say that he changed magazines upwards of 10 times. My thought in this is that you're dealing with a magazine that's a little over 3/4 of an inch thick, about 3.5 inches from front to back, and you have with a magazine well where you introduce or index the magazine to the weapon. As I've said, as a professional shooter, even I make mistakes from time to time. So to suggest that this individual got in there with 10 magazine changes and hundreds of rounds fired without so much as a single mechanical stoppage of in any capacity, is it impossible? No. Is it unlikely? In my opinion, very unlikely that he would not have encountered some kind of a stoppage. And then you have to be very well versed in corrective actions, how to manipulate the weapon to correct whatever stoppage it's currently experiencing and get it back into the engagement. So, and that's where he could have just transitioned to any one of his other 7,000 weapons that he was carrying. It's all these little details like this. The other thing, Joyce, that really kind of spurred me into this was that immediately, without any hesitation or delay, immediately, the politicians went straight for the throat. These children's poor little bodies weren't even cold in the medical examiner's office in a morgue yet, before the politicians started going straight for it. You got Frank and Feinstein coming out of California screaming about it, McCarthy. The usual suspects came pouring out of the woodwork like cockroaches and demanding. And here's 2 more points. Look up a guy by the name of Robbie Parker, and I hope and pray to God, Mr. Parker, that my voice is landing on your ears right now, because I'm deliberately calling you out right here and right now. 6 hours after your daughter was allegedly murdered brutally, you appear in front of a camera. I witnessed your mouth when you said, "Oh, should I just read this from the card? Ha, 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 ha," while you smile and laugh as you approach the podium, and then in true form and fashion, you go into character by hyperventilating. And it's an old stage actor's trick, isn't it, Mr. Parker? When you hyperventilate yourself so that you can create false tears and you can flush your face. Yeah, I took drama in high school, too.
Let me ask you a question regarding that, because, we're not saying people didn't suffer, people didn't die. We're asking the question, who did all of this is the main question we're asking. But it seems to me, and I'm sure you have a family like everybody, and I'm sure that you can understand or that you can identify with how you might have been feeling at that time. 6 hours afterwards, I'd have been in the biggest state of shock. I wouldn't even know what my own name was to be able to say it forward.
Let me tell you where I would be, Joyce. I would be shoveling up the pieces of my wife. Where was Mr. Parker's concern for? Where was Mrs. Parker? While Mr. Parker was so arrogantly and joyfully interviewing himself in front of a camera with a producer that he addresses stage right. You want me to just read this from the card, he says? Where was Mrs. Parker? Why would you leave your wife and the rest of your family, his other 2 little girls? Now, consequentially, there's been some interesting things that popped up there, too. There was a lady that came up publicly and said, "Hey, I don't know who these people are or why they're using a picture from our Flickr account of my daughter who's alive and well sitting right next to me, but should I be scared?"
Wow.
Are they going to come and try? Go ahead.
All right, let's move forward with the event has taken place. Now, allegedly, the law enforcement is called and they respond within how many minutes?
From what they said, the officers were on scene within the first 7 minutes. That the first responders were there and inside the building, weapons up, within 7 minutes.
Okay, within 7 minutes they were there. How long, my question is, how long from the time they called 911 would it take for him to use an AR-15 with that number of magazines? I mean, are we talking about you can do that in 2 minutes, you can do it in 20 minutes, you can do it in 5 minutes? I mean, do we have any way of knowing how long it might have taken to get off that many rounds?
In the stress of a situation like that, time is an eternity because there's so many psychological and physical factors that come into play. You're talking about several minutes at least. The individual has to compromise the front door. Within seconds, they're on the phone dialing 911, which would be approximately, so I'm going to suggest that he'd be at the entry approximately 9:35. I'll grant him 2 minutes to get on the phone, even though I know it takes a hell of a lot less. And, the clock starts ticking right then. He's at the door. Boom, 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 shoots his way through the door. So you're talking 20 to 30 to 40 seconds to compromise the front entryway. He walks in, then he's got to start figuring out, okay, which path am I going to take? Which room am I going to go into? But the teachers are locking the doors because they heard the gunfire. So now he's got to figure out, this is where you got to start factoring in the dynamics. Okay, he kicks on the door. This one's locked. Move on to the next one. This one's locked. Well, wait a minute. This one's open. I can go in here and gun people down. So you're talking about the physical impossibility of the timing that's involved in this. It's with every second that ticks by, it makes the official story stink more and more and more. Do I believe that he had enough time to pull this off? No, I do not.
Okay, 9:30, around that time period, this event happened. The school nurse, or one of the teachers, and I'm not sure which one it was, says that I was still locked in a closet at 1 p.m. when they brought me out. Now, it seems to me that police officers, law enforcement would clear a facility after an event that took place to see how many bodies there are, who's injured, whatever. Why would this woman say she was locked in a closet until 1 p.m.? How could that possibly happen?
Well, it wouldn't, because the highly trained, extraordinarily well-trained responding officers that are SWAT units are extraordinarily well organized and trained to clear every nook, every cranny, every hole. And this is their own quote, straight out of the Connecticut. You know, they had gone through, and within 1 hour, they had what they called a quote, how did they put it? Oh, good Lord. I forget exactly how they worded it now, but a painstakingly, brutally clear investigative sweep of the building within 1 hour. And I'm kind of going, of the original call, that is, not upon arrival, which was the other thing that kind of didn't make any sense, was how was it that these operators were able to get on scene, get kitted up, get their brief, get their assignment, get their plan rolling, and make entry onto the building, and start the sweep process in less than an hour. Official sources said that President Obama, by 10:30 a.m., President Obama had been briefed that there had been a shooting and that there was under control and that the single lone gunman who had pulled this stunt off was dead. And then, so why bother with all the continuous additional bravado afterwards? If your shooter's down, first of all, you need to address your casualties. And that's their first and foremost responsibility, is to make sure that he didn't come in through some kind of secondary or tertiary point inside the building and leave casualties in other places. A supply closet in the infirmary of the school where the nurse would be keeping all kinds of medical supplies, that seems like a place that I'd want to focus some attention. You know, and the one teacher that claims that she pushed 15 students and herself into a small 3.5 by 4.5 in this little tiny bathroom. Boy, my God, she was sure stacking them on there if that's the case. It's all these details that just continue to not add up. You know, you look at the... I'm sorry,
none of the first-hand responders or first-hand people with testimonies there made any sense to me. None of them at all. That really confused the whole issue even more so. And then to find out that the school nurse is not even licensed in the state of Connecticut, you know, that really, really trumped the whole thing.
Last I checked, in the medical community, that can earn you a malpractice suit.
Well, it can get you a criminal suit, too.
Yeah.
So
it seems like none of these people, Joyce, that's one of the other consistent factors in this, is none of the people who were alleged to have been professionals in any capacity actually held any viable certification. Gene Rosen was reported to have been a psychologist, although the only thing we could find was 2 years of community college and the fact that he's president of Gene's Pet Love Service or whatever it's called.
Are you serious?
Oh, yeah. You're not going to get a psychologist degree in 2 years of community college. It just doesn't happen. But again, I'm not saying that we're not able to find him on any of the registries, on any public information. He's not being able to be identified or acknowledged by any of the peers in his area. There's just so many things about this that none of it makes any sense. And you just illuminated one point to me. I did not realize that the nurse was not accredited. And it's just it's little things like this. It's all of these little things that add up. Am I saying that those people, the kids weren't kids? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that if something did happen to those children, I feel it's my duty to make sure that they are given no less than the very best investigation humanly possible. I want to know precisely what happened. I want to know where that reddish-purple van with the window shot out of it went. I want to know where the people dressed as nuns that are allegedly said something about being, fleeing from the scene. I mean, there's so many things that came into this so fast. And I realize, and I'm going to go ahead and say, accidents happen. Inconsistencies happen. I'll grant the media, I'll give them a margin of error in this. But there's been no retractions. The media has not come back out and said, we misreported this. We got this wrong.
No, that is a major point. And now, of course, they say they want to destroy or demolish the school, which would be a perfect way to get rid of any evidence and people like you checking this out.
Miraculously similar to Abbottabad, Pakistan, when they say that they got Osama bin Laden. The Pakistani general comes in with his own investigative committee and says, I've been, a general in this Army for 20 some odd years. Warfare has been my occupation, and this did not happen the way the Americans say that it did. Within 72 hours, you've got D9 Caterpillar backhoes on scene razing that building to the ground. So, and it's just those little kinds of things that are exactly the same. And one thing I realize we're getting close to the end of the broadcast. If I could just interject my own personal opinion, one of the other reasons that I'm very personally involved in this, I'm not ready to be lectured to about my gun rights and how I'm expected to give up my entire life, much less a nation's 250 years of privilege, right, and tradition. I'm not quite ready to be lectured to by the fast and furious Benghazi and Syria administration. I'm not ready to hear an attorney general come out who's been judged guilty of contempt of Congress, yet still has faced no punishment for it, who arms, trains, and launders money for Mexican drug cartels who have had over 65,000 violent deaths. We don't want to talk about things like that. People, it's time for the American people to wake up and realize that the presidency has been usurped. That this nation is under attack. We are literally at war for our freedom right now, this very day.
As if we were being attacked by foreign bad guys right here on our own soil, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be back after this 3-minute break. Final segment coming up with Mike Powers. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
We've all heard about antibiotics, but what about probiotics? Antibiotic means against life. Probiotic means pro-life. Antibiotics kill bacteria that are infectious and harmful to the body. They also kill the good bacteria, though, that are necessary for good health. Probiotics from living streams replaces the healthy balance of friendly bacteria and normalizes the digestive tract. Gastritis, ulcers, diarrheal diseases, just a few of the problems people develop when the intestinal flora is out of balance. Living Streams probiotics create the healthy balance needed for good digestion, suppresses growth of pathogenic bacteria, and actually increases resistance to infection. Call the Power Hour, 877-817-9829. Order your Living Stream probiotics today. They're available in 2, 4, and 8-ounce bottles, and Living Streams probiotics comes with a money-back guarantee. Get your body back in balance with Living Streams probiotics today. 877-817-9829. That's 877-817-9829. Living Streams probiotics. Everyone should be pro-life.
Food storage? Check. Survival tools? Check. Weapons and water filters? Check. But what about a permanent source of cooking power that can run forever without buying fuel or paying for maintenance? Introducing Afterburner Stoves, home of the original patented rocket stove, the Kelly Kettle, and the Solo Stove. Afterburner Stoves has what you need and now offers all GCN listeners our complete preparedness package with the means to cook meals and sanitize water. Whether you dig in or bug out, cook almost any meal with just a handful of sticks. We already have the lowest online prices guaranteed. But if you enter coupon code GCN at checkout, we'll knock off an additional 15% and send you our amazing 6-hour solar rechargeable light bulb absolutely free. All for only $249. Visit AfterburnerStoves.com or call 866-716-5214. 866-716-5214. AfterburnerStoves.com. Cook hot meals with just a handful of sticks.
Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. That bears repeating. Digestive health is the key to wellness and elimination of toxins. And Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse is the key to digestive health. Pro EM1 is a powerful liquid probiotic, strong enough to cleanse, gentle enough to use every day. Pro EM1 is dairy, wheat, and soy free, contains all natural and certified organic ingredients, contains no preservatives or animal products, supports a healthy digestive and immune system, supports weight loss, improves absorption of food nutrients, aids in controlling yeast infections, is never freeze-dried, and uses 3 groups of live, viable, beneficial microbes to cleanse and remove toxins. Order Pro EM1 Daily Probiotic Cleanse at Terraganix.com, spelled TerraGanix.com, Terraganix.com, or call toll-free 866-369-3678. That's 866-369-3678. Pro EM1, the raw probiotic.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Power Hour today, and it's gone by so fast. Don't think we're going to stop with this interview. We will continue with Mike Powers, our guest today, and we will continue until we have it all out there in front of the people. Aren't you grateful, ladies and gentlemen, to people like Mike who will take it upon themselves to investigate these situations, who have the background to do it? I cannot thank him enough, and I thank you for all the Power Hour listeners. And I wish we had more time. I really, really do. All right. One thing I did ask you to address during the break was the assignment of a law enforcement officer to all of the families, and I'm going to let you take it and say whatever it is you think needs to be said at this point.
Sure, I appreciate that. Again, one of those extraordinarily bizarre things that's never happened before until this particular incident, the one that has all the inconsistencies, the one that has all the obvious lies and misrepresentations, and then all of a sudden the same Connecticut State Police lieutenant who threatens independent journalists, if you put out any stories out there, you'll be facing civil and federal charges, so on and so forth. Then they put a Connecticut State Police bodyguard on every single one of these families, which is highly suspect. I've never heard of that being done in the history of any of these events. None of the victims' families of 9/11, none of the victims of any of these other quote-unquote mass shooting events. This has never happened. It's unprecedented. One, where do they maintain the budget to pay these officers? How do they maintain around-the-clock physical security having one officer for 30 families? It just doesn't make any sense. Law enforcement budgets are overtaxed as it is right now anyway, as far as overtime being available and so on and so forth. And why? Why would you make such a drastic move? Is it to suppress them from talking? Is it to keep independent journalists that you threatened away from them? What are you trying to hide, Connecticut State Police? That's what we're curious about. And for those of us who don't fear you, I don't live in your jurisdiction, and this is not a federal matter, so you can threaten me all you want. But just know one thing. I've got one of the best attorneys money can buy. And he works in the he's in the Second Amendment industry. He belongs to a conglomeration of attorneys who specialize in these matters. So, I'm not real worried about it. I'm as clean as the preacher's sheets. I have nothing to worry about. So if they want to come messing with me, and God forbid you take any aggressive or physical action against me or my family, ladies and gentlemen, all I can tell you is that whether you believe it or not, whether you subscribe to it or not, this nation is currently a nation at war. Although shots are not being fired, I need to draw your attention to the fact that several prominent gun industry professionals have been found dead under extremely mysterious circumstances over the last couple of weeks. The 10th most viewed channel on YouTube was called FPS Russia. It was about a kid that faked a Russian accent who was displaying all kinds of new and cutting-edge firearms to his viewers. His producer was found strapped to a chair and shot in the head. John Noveski was the head president and CEO of Noveski Firearms. Died under a very peculiar traffic accident when people who were close to him said that he was not a careless or frivolous man, that alcohol was not a factor, that he just mysteriously drifted into a bunch of boulders on the side of the road. And, there's just, folks, it's happening. Your president is announcing these sweeping new 19 executive orders today. First of all, what people need to understand, Joyce, is that the president's ability to issue executive order is somewhat limited. He is not allowed to create new law with executive order. That is one thing that is expressly forbidden by an act in 1952. The other thing is that executive orders it's not something he has the power to do. So he can wish in one hand and create executive orders in the other, but there's a Texas senator who's already come forward and said that he'll file the impeachment hearings himself. Do not believe the media hype, ladies and gentlemen, when they tell you that the president has overwhelming support. Sure, he's got overwhelming support from Dianne Feinstein, from Barbara Boxer, from Carolyn McCarthy, from all these other violent, radical, anti-gun, anti-American, I don't even know what to call them.
Well, I am telling you, it is truly one nation under siege. And if you don't understand that now, you never will. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned for the president's, the imperialistic dictator's announcements later on. We salute you so much. Thank you, Mike Powers, at the Power Hour. We look forward to having you back very, very soon. Ladies and gentlemen, we all need to thank people like Mike Powers. Pray for them. May no one be taken away because they're telling the truth, whether talk show hosts or guests. You all have a blessed day. We'll see you tomorrow. Y'all bless you all. Love you at the Power Hour, and it's all about the truth.